guys, welcome back to Couch Critics. I'm Lamia.
And I'm Ruby, and today we're reviewing The Materialists.
Yes, it's the last Celine song movie.
Yes.
Also did Past Lives.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like it.
It
Okay.
had a past life
Vibe.
vibe,
don't
especially
see
the
it,
ending,
no.
with the New York
The courthouse.
spaces and
Yeah.
like when you see the couples standing next to apartments, buildings.
Doesn't feel like an indie movie though.
No. It's an A24 movie.
I completely forgot it was an A24 movie, and I honestly find it a bit disappointing that it's an A24
Really?
movie. Yeah.
I mean, I did have high expectations
Yeah.
too, especially when I saw the cast: Dakota Johnson,
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal, Chris Evans.
Yeah.
I loved Dakota Johnson in this movie because I felt like the rhythm of the action in this movie matched the rhythm of her acting.
I thought she was too caricatural. I thought she was
Really?
making fun of her own character.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we start talking about the characters, this movie, let's just do a synopsis
Yeah.
of the movie. This movie is about a matchmaker, and basically her job is to do what Hinge and Tinder usually do.
Exactly.
Is to find people and like make them meet their soulmate.
Yeah, and it's in New York, Manhattan.
Yeah.
So obviously it's about materialistic people. It's not just like that, but it's really evokes a materialistic side of
Mhm.
dating, which I think was such a good plot.
Yeah.
I think it provokes a lot of interesting conversation, as we said earlier. But I think the delivery wasn't that good. I think they took a great idea and they turned it into something so caricatural, so stupid, and so light, and I don't know. I think it could have
I just feel like it's
been better.
outdated because like who goes to a matchmaker right now? It's not something that people can relate to it unless
Yeah.
like there is like a Netflix show about like really really rich people who can't find someone that they could match with, so they
Yeah.
go to a matchmaker. But like for the rest of for normal people, they just use dating
Dating
apps. And so yeah, maybe this is like I don't know, like a comment on dating apps,
Yeah.
this whole movie. But yeah, it goes to show, like to me, the plot was about showing how things could go wrong when you're focused on the wrong things.
Yeah, yes. It also, I mean, honestly, the 6 feet thing went
Yeah.
like that went too deep. They saw I think the writers saw a lot of memes about Hinge and
Yeah.
about dating apps, and they focus so much about the importance of a guy being 6 foot tall, and I think this is so degrading for women because I don't think this is the main thing we ask for, and there's a lot of things besides a man's height that's important, and like the plot twist of, spoiler alert, Pedro Pascal having had a surgery to be 6 feet tall is just too
ridiculous.
much.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but also I feel like this plot just kind of went all over the place because, like, to me, there was a really interesting story, with Sophie, the girl who
Yeah.
goes on a date and she had like all these criterias about the perfect guy, and she ends up with a psycho.
Yeah.
And to me, they should have just stick to that.
Yeah.
But this whole going back and forth with Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans was just ridiculous, and also the love story with each character was like I didn't see the meaning of that. I don't understand why she ended up with, spoiler alert, Chris, because why would you go back to something that failed without fixing the things that failed? So why was it a problem that he he acted a certain way in the past, and he like one day decided that he would stop acting that way?
But he didn't. I mean,
Yeah, she just accepted the fact that he was the way he was.
You can't name a movie Materialist and have the girl end up with the broke guy. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it. Chris Evans,
the 37-year-old wannabe actor with roommates.
And I'm sorry, but it's too much. I mean, if you're living with roommates who are just dirty, who leave hair in the sink, who just don't do things right, it's not because they're poor, it's just because they're undisciplined, and it's just, I mean, I'm sorry, it doesn't take money to be clean and to have good hygiene. That's
true.
It was such a turn off. I feel like this whole movie was like a meme, a never ending meme. And yeah, and I'm sorry, but I feel like Dakota's character was very demonized for her because she wanted to date someone who's financially comfortable and not the guy who's still chasing a dream. She also wanted to be an actress, and she gave up on that dream so that she can stop being in debt so that she could get her life together. Why is it wrong for her to want somebody who's
Exactly.
doing the same
It's
thing?
like they were trying to show that wanting a good quality of life is a bad thing.
Yeah, and
What, to me, she should definitely she should have ended up with Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
Because her whole thing about her her whole idea of love was that you should have a little bit of everything. You should have love and you should have other elements. She had, that crazy passion with Chris Evans.
I didn't even see passion in their relationship.
Yeah, same.
It was just comfort. It was like two best friends who
Yeah.
were dating at the same. I'm sorry, I interrupted
It's
you.
okay. And at the same time, she had, comfort with Pedro Pascal, but she also had a little bit of, attraction and love with Pedro Pascal. So to me, the best option here was Pedro, because you grow up and like you just you can't go back to something that toxic.
Exactly. And I feel like there were two scenes where they tried to justify why she ended up with Chris Evans. There was a scene where Pedro made her breakfast, got the coffee ready in the morning. Everything was right, but he was on his phone and he didn't even say good morning and he just left for
Oh,
work.
I didn't notice
Yeah, that was the morning after like their first real date. And then we have Chris Evans who like stayed on the porch all night while she was at Sophia's place and like he waited all night, which as soon as she went out, she was like, "Oh, you can go home. I'm gonna sleep on her couch." And I mean, come on, couldn't you have told him that earlier?
Yeah, true.
So I think they tried to show that, oh yeah, it's true that Pedro Pascal was rich and comfortable, but he was busy and like he never, like he didn't know when she had a bad day at work and everything.
I mean, he bought her a flight to Iceland. How
because it's her dream.
considerate.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they tried again to demonize like the wealthy guy or the girl who wants to be with a wealthy man, but it's just so banal. And I mean, in a relationship, you can't have everything. You're gonna eventually
and it's
have to
not like
make your
she was
choices.
dependent on
Not
Pedro
at all.
Pascal.
No.
It's just she wanted someone who would match her level of, financial level,
Yeah.
or like be better than her, so that
Yeah.
she would,
Yeah.
evolve and have a better life. And
Yeah.
that's something that's natural. I feel like Celine Song tried to recreate something like what she did with Past Lives.
Yeah.
This ambiguity, but it's just not realistic. I mean, we live in a recession. You can't afford to date that guy.
Spoken like a true finance major. I love this.
Yeah.
No, but it's true. Also, like in the whole movie, men were always asking for like good-looking girl and like girls who are like good-looking, young, also who have a good education and who have a job and ambitious and independent. And God forbid a woman
And that's
asks for the same thing in
socially
return.
acceptable too, for a guy to ask
Yeah.
for something like that. Remember, like the doctor, he was like 29 is too much for me to
Yeah.
date.
Oh,
He was
that
like
guy
50,
was terrible.
and he
Yeah.
wanted someone who was 27.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe you don't want someone who has a financial, stability, but like you do want someone who's youthful. So
Yeah.
yeah, there is a price to pay.
Exactly. And why is it okay for men to ask that, but not okay for women to ask to be with a man
Yeah.
who like knows how to wear his pants and tie his shoes? I don't understand that.
With no roommates.
With no roommates. Who also love her because I mean it doesn't
Yeah.
mean like the rich guy is not gonna like accord time. I'm sorry, if you have money, I think you have more time to have quality time with your partner, because if you're broke, how are you gonna like have time? And I'm sorry, but in New York, the maternity leave is 3 months. I just looked it up before coming. So imagine like
Is it?
yeah,
That's
it's just
crazy.
3 months. And so imagine like being with a man who makes less than you and like having just given birth to a kid, and then after that having to go back to work and because you're the moneymaker in the relationship. How is that okay?
It's not.
Yeah, people who think it's not are just short-sighted. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say
And
it.
it's so crazy that we're even having this debate, because like we're not even saying that like men should pay for everything and they should like do everything, but you need to form a team.
Yeah.
One of the people of the two people in the relationship can't compromise when it comes to money.
Yeah.
So
And it's always expected for the women to be the nurturing caregivers.
yeah.
Why is it not expected for men to be
Exactly, and
the
we
providers?
should always take into consideration that women pay differently. It's
Yeah.
not maybe like a valeur monétaire.
Exactly, it's priceless actually.
Yeah.
What women put into the relationship. What are men bringing to the table?
Yeah.
This is gonna get me canceled so bad. I'm really progressive. I have like a college degree. I'm working.
She
We're
has
like
2 college degrees.
I'm working on the second. Like I think women should be financially independent, and I think there's a TV show called Made by Margaret Qualley
Yeah.
to like that depicts it perfectly why women should be financially independent. But if you're in a relationship, I think the same thing and even more should be expected from men in that aspect, because more is expected from women in a lot of different areas.
And also, just to bring us back to the plot, we're talking about a guy who couldn't afford to pay a parking ticket, a
For 20,
$25 parking ticket. So, yeah, I totally get how Dakota would just, Dakota's character would just like leave the car and break
Yeah.
up with him.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that we're even debating about this. It's
Yeah.
insane.
And she comes from like a family that wasn't financially comfortable, and
Yeah.
he also does. So I think if there's anything, I mean, you should always work your way up in life. You should
Mm.
always like try to do better for yourself. So why is it so bad for her
Yeah,
to
and
ask for
same
something
goes
for the
for
same?
men. I mean, you don't want to be with someone who's not trying to be better
Yeah,
every day.
totally, totally.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that all the financial weight should be on men. That's not what I'm going for.
Yeah,
I'm just saying if you expect a certain thing from women, maybe we also have the right to expect certain things from men.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
That went too far.
I was fueled before coming here. I
No,
had
I get
so
it.
many things to say.
I was watching the movie and I loved the way that it was written, and I loved how, Dakota was like slowly letting go of her love for Chris Evans during the
Yeah.
first part of the movie. And then she went back to him. Like the whole last part of the movie was so disappointing.
Yeah.
And the way that he proposed to her at the end, it's like they just like switched into two different characters, like
Mm-hmm.
in the split of a second.
Yeah.
And it's just so weird. And also what they did to Pedro Pascal, like just him having to like get the
Yeah.
surgery and everything. It's just it doesn't go with the description of his character, this
Yeah.
confident guy who's
Yeah.
not really who's very secure and
Yeah. And why, like, I would, I don't know, like, if it was, I don't know, like, scars because of surgery, and the way, I'm sorry, the way he woke up in the middle of the night and just left without any communication, it was so, like,
weird.
who does that? It was so weird, and I feel like his character should have had way more depth, and they made it seem as if, like, a guy had, like, a healthy childhood, and if he is financially comfortable, he's just a superficial person who has no depth in his personality, and that's not true.
And also, she did end up breaking up with him because he wasn't actually like 2 feet tall.
Yeah,
Like
6 feet.
as soon as she found out, she left.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just it doesn't work with any of the characters' description. I
Yeah.
mean, the whole movie is missing something.
It's missing a lot of things. And there's a scene where after Dakota was told that her client was essayed by like another client, you see her sad and like frustrated, and then you see all of the girls behind her celebrate because one of their matches got engaged. And I feel it's like it's so degrading. Like they wanted to create this imbalance between someone who's conflicted because she sees that dating can lead to damage, and then the other people who are celebrating like sorority girls. And I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, this is like no, like that's not an accurate representation of women in their
totally.
30s. And if it
Yeah.
is, it's a small minority, and it shouldn't, I don't know. Yeah.
Also, I did like I was as I said earlier, I did like Dakota Johnson's acting in this movie, but I at the same time I think that it's always the same kind of acting that she does,
Yes.
and so I was asking myself this morning, I was like, is this like her last good
Yeah.
acting
But she hasn't
in a
had like
movie?
good movies. I'm wondering if she's even reading the scripts before signing up for these
Yeah,
movies. Because Madam Web was a total flop, and she just ended up making fun of it for a whole year. And then she goes on and does a movie like this. I mean, do you even want to be in a good movie? And I'm sorry, but if A-list actors are ending up in movies like this, I don't know what's left for the rest of the actors. I
yeah,
think when you reach a certain level of like a certain level of acting in your career, you should have a say in the movie you pick. And if these are the movies they're
mm.
picking,
But again, like
I don't
I'm
know.
pretty sure they heard that it's a Celine Song
Yeah,
movie, and like Past Lives did have a big success,
yeah,
and so based on that, maybe they thought that it would be good.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the subject was so important.
Hmm.
Again, the plot was really, even though it's dated and maybe it's a bit of a cliche, but it's so important. But there's other movies who delivered it in a way better way, and you know, we were talking about it earlier, but Triangle of Sadness,
Mm-hmm.
there was just one scene where the girl said why she cares about the guy paying even though she makes more than him.
Yeah.
And that just depicts everything in a clearer way than just to make a whole movie about it and still make it seem as if it's a bad thing for
Yeah.
someone to be materialistic. And I don't even think she was materialistic.
No, I don't. Like when the movie ended, I couldn't stop thinking about how she would have to go to Chris's apartment.
Oh my god.
It was just yeah, yeah.
When she lives in a way better apartment, I'm sorry to say it, but
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't like the scene where she was with Petra and she was just staring at the apartment. Like I refuse to think somebody could like be like that. She could be
Yeah.
materialistic, but I'm definitely sure. Again, it was very caricatural in my opinion.
Yeah. I think that sums it up.
Sorry for dissing the movie. I think it had great potential again. I love the actors, all of them. I just think it was a bit
All over the
insulting.
place. Yeah.
Yes.
And insulting.
Let us know what you guys think.
Yeah.
Honestly, leave a comment below, and if you disagree with us, let us know why.
Mm-hmm. And please like and subscribe, and
thank
we'll
you so
see
much
you
for watching.
guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.